of 0.2%. This offered one final glimpse into the health of the American consumer ahead of the Fed's long-anticipated rate cut. The data suggests that the world's largest economy remains on solid footing, weakening the case for the central bank to cut rates aggressively. While investors widely expect the Federal Reserve to begin its policy easing cycle, the market is split on the magnitude of the potential rate reduction. Even with the strong retail sales data, traders kept their bets that the Federal Reserve will implement a series of interest rate cuts, starting with an outsized reduction this week. This may put pressure on the central bank to deliver this rate action. Futures tied to the Fed's policy rate as of Tuesday imply about a 2 in 3 chance of a bigger rate cut versus a 1 in 3 chance of the more moderate 25 basis point reduction expected by analysts on Wall Street. Rate futures also show that traders expect a total of 2 50 basis point rate cuts plus 1 25 basis point cut over the course of the 3 remaining meetings this year. The Fed will meet again in early November and mid-December after the meeting this week. The central bank has maintained its policy rates at the 5.25% to 5.5% range for more than a year to combat high inflation.
So it could be some surprises this week. Typically, the Fed does exactly what the market expects at the last minute. We've seen that historically. However, this time it could get a little bit exciting because the market probabilities are close to 50-50. They're leaning towards a 50 basis point cut. That's probably what will happen, but we're getting close to that 50-50 point. So there is a chance you could see something a little different from what the market expects. Could see some surprises and some volatility, but we'll have to see what we get tomorrow.
Still in the U.S., the government is investigating a surge in imports of enriched uranium from China. This is amid concerns that China is importing enriched uranium from Russia while exporting its own production to the United States. U.S. lawmakers passed the ban on Russian enriched uranium in December 2023 to disrupt President Vladimir Putin's ability to fund Russia's war on Ukraine. Around the same time, shipments of uranium from China to the U.S. reached 243,000 kilograms. That's a significant amount since China did not export this fuel to the U.S. from 2020 to 2022. Moscow sidestepping the ban can hurt U.S. efforts to eliminate dependence on Russian fuel for its nuclear power industry, while it attempts to build a domestic uranium supply chain. An update on the U.S. elections. Democratic candidate Kamala Harris told Black journalists that she will work with private investors to increase housing supply. Economic issues were the main issue at the start of the interview organized by the National Association of Black Journalists at a forum in Philadelphia. Harris reiterated a plan to expand the child tax credit to $6,000. She also repeated a pledge that Americans will not have to pay more than 7% of their income on childcare. The event was scheduled after the U.S. Vice President skipped the group's convention in Chicago in July when her Republican rival Donald Trump questioned her Black identity. The two presidential candidates have made efforts to win over Black voters whose support may be decisive in the closely fought election, especially in battleground states like Pennsylvania and Georgia. Here at home, banks are under fire for their alleged failure to flag the suspicious transactions of dismissed Bamban-Tarlac Mayor Alice Guo. Senator Sherwin Gatchalian is seeking a probe to look into the possible liability of banks in the operation of illegal offshore gaming operators in Guo's bailiwick. Recent Senate investigations on Pogo-related activities uncovered transactions of companies owned by Guo worth hundreds of millions of pesos that financed the development of the Pogo hub there. Gatchalian says that the amount involved is well beyond the capacity of these companies and that banks are required by law. They should have alerted the Anti-Money Laundering Council on all of these transactions. The apparent failure of banks to report these dubious deals casts doubt on the effectiveness of their internal controls and procedures for identifying suspicious transactions. Expect more cars on the road as vehicle sales climbed last month. This was according to the joint report by the Chamber of Automotive Manufacturers of the Philippines and the Truck Manufacturers Association. Car sales increased by 6.6% year-on-year to 39,155 units last month. This was fueled by an 11.3% jump in commercial vehicle sales that offset the 5.6% drop in passenger car sales. Year-to-date, vehicle sales went up by more than a tenth to 304,765 units. Toyota Motor Philippines Corporation remains as the market leader with a 46% share, followed by Mitsubishi Motors with 19% and Ford Motor with a 6% share. Now, San Miguel Corporation of billionaire Ramon Ang settles its 30 billion peso upfront payment to the national government after taking over the operations and maintenance of the Ninoy Aquino International Airport. The Finance Department says new NAIA Infra Corporation's payment was remitted to the Bureau of Treasury and was then cleared on September 16th. San Miguel's contributions may reach 2 billion pesos annually, on top of the 82.16% share of the national government to revenues from operating NAIA. Over the course of the project, the government is expected to generate roughly 900 billion in revenues. Meanwhile, San Miguel-led New NAIA Infra Corporation, or NNIC, says there are no immediate changes to terminal assignments and that the status quo remains in place under the new management. NNIC General Manager Angelito Alvarez assures the public that future terminal assignments will be introduced gradually to minimize disruptions. San Miguel and its partners bagged the 171 billion NAIA Rehabilitation Project, the largest public-private partnership project under the Marcos administration. We're taking a quick break. Please stay with us as we dive deep into the numbers and the narratives that matter most to your bottom line.
Get ready, be prepared. Get to the latest updates and reports about what's happening in the world of sports. Hosted by the one and only Anton Rojas.
Tune in to The Scorecard on BNC weeknights at 10 p.m. because on The Scorecard, sports is our business and business is our sport.
On BNC, the Billionario News Channel. Weekdays on BNC, the Billionario News Channel. The Billionario News Channel, always on top.
This is Pinky Webb, and it's a great opportunity.
Pinky Webb.
Kami niyong lingkod si Corina Sanchez Rojas.
Corina Sanchez.
As they uphold their mission is to be proud
Dalawang
of what we
mamamahayag
do with
na
our
subok
lives.
sa
Ito ako
tapang
ay
at
had
talino.
the chance to talk with all of you. Maraming salamat.
Pagsasamahin ng isa. Agenda. Mondays to Fridays, 6 p.m. Only on BNC, the Billionario News Channel.
Welcome back to Basis Points. Over in Wall Street, a rally in U.S. stock markets lost steam as strong economic data allayed fears of a slowdown in the world's largest economy. Now, the S&P 500 rose to an all-time high intraday, but came in flat to finish the session. The Dow Jones Industrial Average gave up less than 0.1%, while the tech-heavy Nasdaq advanced by 0.2%. The U.S. dollar also bounced back from its recent lows against most major currencies.
I think the reason why stocks are flat today is exactly because of that the Fed is going to make it a huge announcement. And people aren't sure what to do right now. Again, there's a ton of uncertainty around this decision. And so longer term, I personally, as an investor, don't really think it matters whether it's 25 or 50. But in the short term, I definitely think we are set up to see some volatility again if the market's disappointed or not tomorrow.
Trading at the Philippine Stock Exchange opened just a few minutes ago. Let's take a look at the initial figures. Right now, we're seeing profit taking. The PSE index is down by 0.3% to 71.55. All shares index down as well. It's at 38.45. The financials, industrial, holding firms, services, and property counters are marginally in the red. Only gain here we're seeing right now is in the mining and oil counter, which is up by a 0.3%. Now, to help us make sense of the numbers, we have with us Jonathan Ravella, Senior Advisor to Reyes Tacandong and Company. Good morning, Jonas. Thanks for being here with us.
Good morning, Maiki. Good morning to your subscribers.
Okay, so Jonas, a lot of the gains, the recent gains we've seen in the market have been on account of expectations of a rate cut by the U.S. Federal Reserve. Expectations are ranging from 25 to 50, a cut by 50 basis points to 25. But right now we're seeing profit taking. Can you explain what's going on right now? We're at 71.54. The market's had a hard time staying above this 7,000 level. What's your take on everything that's going on?
Well, I guess it's really just, it boils down to buy the rumor, sell the fact. I think we're now less than 24 hours away from the decision. So the market has rallied from the low 6,500, 6.8 to the present level. So it's more of a sell on news. So people, whether it's going to be 25 or 50, I think the market would probably have a spell of profit taking, whether it will stay above 7,000 and wait for the next clues of the Fed dot plots that the Fed will probably unveil tonight.
All right, so buy the rumor, sell the facts. So we could see even more profit taking when it actually happens tomorrow, regardless of the size of the cut. Now, going into the size of the cut, Jonas, traditionally the Fed moves in increments of a quarter point. Why is it that this decision is so complicated nowadays?
Well, basically, people feel that given the recent set of uncertainties, you have upside risks to inflation that probably have dissipated, and the fact that the market, especially at the start of the year, we're already looking at 3 to 5 cuts, but none has materialized. They think that this is the right time to probably do a very significant cut of at least 50. And the recent reports that you've highlighted doesn't really necessarily mean that the U.S. economy is really moving into a recession. So I'm on the camp that probably it's just going to be a 25 basis point cut.
Okay. Now, right now, the PSE index is at 71.55. What's the figure we'd need to hit in order to be able to say that the market has convincingly, broken past the 7,000 mark?
Okay. Over the past 2-3 years, we've been ranging between 6,000 to around 7,200. So for me, a more significant level of the index is around 7,500. And that will probably ensue moves towards the 8,000 to 8,500.
Mm-hmm. Where do you see the market ending the year, Jonas?
Okay, I'm still keeping my 7,100 level view. I think mainly because most of the expectation of the rate cut, and I think the more significant in any rate cut decision, whether it's the U.S. or here, we've already started our rate cut cycle. So most likely, people will already slowly discount whatever or how big the cuts will probably be in 2025. So it will just be a confirmation that they will continue to do it. So that's why I'm keeping 7,100 by year end.
Okay, 7,100 by year end. That's where we are now. That's a very modest expectation for the end of the year. That said, you don't seem to think corporate earnings are going to be surprising to the upside, especially for Q3.
Well, basically, I think that despite that there'll probably be 5 to 10% on the average for the third quarter, I think we're still challenged by the higher inflation in the first half. So probably let's give it until the end of the fourth quarter to probably make them recover the high costs. So you have to understand, we had issues with electricity, transport, and food. So hopefully this second half will probably provide the recovery, particularly for consumers.
7,100, this despite the dovish stance on monetary policy in the U.S. and here in the Philippines, Jonas.
Yes, I think this was my view since the start of the year when everybody was looking at 3 to 5 cuts. And most likely at best, whether we talk about the Fed, we'll probably just see the 50 basis point and most of the cuts I see coming in 2025. In the Philippines, I'm just looking at another cut before end of the year, another 25 basis points, and probably see 100 basis points in 2025. So I think that is already a factored in at the 7-1. But I think one of the things that why I'm keeping the conservatism is that there's still upside risks to inflation, which is the geopolitical tensions and climate hazards.
Okay, now going back to the rate cuts in the U.S., because all eyes are on the Fed's decision tonight. In terms of the increment size, whether it's a quarter-point cut or a deeper 50 basis point cut, what is the message that would be attached to those cuts?
Well, basically, if they do a 50, it's saying that probably they're expecting the recession sometime soon and they're behind the curve. If they take the 25 basis points, that will eventually mean that they're still looking at a soft landing and they control the narrative that we could probably see a gradual pace of reductions in the coming sessions, which could be probably a quarter every quarter.
How might those narratives affect us, affect global markets, especially emerging markets like the Philippines?
Well, basically, I guess if they're behind the curve and pressures of recession starts to kick in, then definitely it could mean some risk off in the coming months. So people will take advantage of taking profits. On the other hand, at 25 basis points could actually provide a very positive theme for emerging markets as people search for yields. People will look into the emerging markets like the Philippines as a good story.
Okay. Now, Jonas, you're conservative with the outlook for the PSEI through to the end of the year. What about for the peso? Are you going to be just as conservative as well?
Well, I'm looking at 56.50 by year end. So basically from the current levels, we're looking at roughly 50 centavos away from my year end. I think given the uncertainty of who will probably be the next U.S. president, we've seen the overnight what happened in the Middle East. I think slightly weaker peso is actually quite conservative at this point in time at 56.50, despite the fact that it's remittance month in the fourth quarter. I think the 56.50 will be warranted if there will be more adjustment, particularly for oil price, and if there's if there is going to be an extreme hold in the Western world, then oil could also rise. So I think a 56.50 is a very ideal exchange rate level at the end of the year.
All right. Thank you so much, Jonas. That was Jonas Reveles, Senior Advisor to Reyes Tacandong and Company. We're taking a quick breather. Basis points will be right back.
Good morning, I'm Rain Musni and welcome to Follow the Money. Join us as we explore the tools and insights you need to jumpstart your financial journey.
Harness the power of your money so it can take you where there is growth, where there is investment, where there is freedom. Rain Musni sits down with the experts to know where your finances is taking you. Weekdays, 10:30 a.m. on BNC, the Billionario News Channel.
It has no authorization.
We hope and pray that it will not rise.
Thanks for having me here.
Our frustrated
By myself, basically.
We always say that.
It depends.
A well-concerted effort.
Perhaps I can reiterate.
My greatest beefsteak. Iba pa na yun.
I'm attorney Karen Jimenez. Join me at the forefront as we zero in and discuss the details of some of the most pressing national issues that our country faces.
You mentioned there are 5 PNP officials who are also involved. Who are these 5 PNP officials?
What makes the PAOCC more effective in dealing with organized crime?
The political scene and government issues. These should be our concern, and we're taking you at the forefront.
Welcome back to Basis Points. Businessman Leandro Leviste's shopping spree continues as he acquires Nueva Ecija's largest poultry farm. Leviste says this acquisition is part of his company, Provincia Investment's 15 billion peso investment pledge to stimulate economic growth outside of Metro Manila. To fund this, Leviste is using the windfall from the 15 billion pesos that his company, Solar Philippines, has now raised from the sale of shares in SP New Energy Corporation. So far, Leviste has acquired stakes in media company ABS-CBN Corporation and holding firm Rojas and Company. Businessman Manuel Pangilinan picks Menardo Jimenez Jr. as the new Chief Operating Officer of PLDT. Prior to his appointment, Jimenez served as PLDT's Vice President and Network Head. He has also led several departments of the telco, including consumer business transformation, human resource and development, and retail. Pangilinan has served as the company's CEO after Alfredo Panlilio stepped down from the post last year due to health reasons. The Philippine Competition Commission taps SM, the country's largest mall operator, owned by the C family, to promote fair competition and protect consumer rights. The partnership involves a nationwide information campaign to educate the public about the PCC's regulatory mandate and the benefits of fair trade. With 86 shopping centers across the country, SM malls are home to a wide range of businesses, from small local businesses to international brands. SM says it's dedicated to implementing fair trade practices within its malls and to ensuring that consumers have access to a diverse range of products and services. Before we go, let's take a look at some of the biggest merger and acquisition developments globally. Milan-based UniCredit will seek clearance from the European Central Bank to acquire up to 30% of Germany's Commerzbank as the Italian bank CEO, Andrea Orcel, pursues the takeover of the lender. Arco is planning to divest its convenience store operations in a deal that could be valued at $2 billion. The Virginia-based store operator is working with Citigroup as it looks to abandon an expansion strategy amid slowing sales. The U.S. Transportation Department has agreed to allow Alaska Airlines to close its $1.9 billion acquisition of Hawaiian Airlines. This comes after carriers have agreed to keep key Hawaiian routes and adopt consumer protections. And Britain's Guardian Media Group is in exclusive talks to sell The Observer, the world's oldest Sunday newspaper, to startup Tortoise Media. Tortoise says negotiations include a commitment from the company to invest more than £25 million, or $33 million in the next 5 years. And that's it for Basis Points. I'm Maiki Oreta. Stay tuned tomorrow for more news on the financial markets and more. Keep it here on BNC, the Bilyonario News Channel, always on top.
Right behind me is a giant piece of artwork. It's like 50 meters long. It's anamorphic, so it can only really be seen from one position. And it's of a girl holding the earth for Earth Day. And the words are, "Vote for climate, vote for our future." And really, she's smiling.